Hello, everyone. Today we will be presenting on Leber hereditary optic neuropathy. We will be focusing our presentation today on the signs and symptoms of LHON, the epidemiology and inheritance of this disease, and further the molecular and biochemical causes. And towards the end of the presentation, we'll end with possible treatments for LHON. I am Kyrillos Ayoub.
My name is Shiv Lamba.
I'm Chen.
I'm Sushruth Manchineella.
And I'm Walter Navid.
And we are in the Wednesday biochemistry section. We'll start off with treatments with Shiv. Go ahead.
Thank you, Cairo. So to begin, I'm going to dive a little deeper into what exactly Leber hereditary optic neuropathy is. So LHON is a form of vision loss that is inherited. The most common cases of LHON are among teens or people in their 20s. However, there have been rare cases of LHON among people in early childhood or later in adulthood. And something important to note is that males are more affected than females. However, the reason for this is still unknown. I'm going to dive a deeper into some of the symptoms of LHON. To begin, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the initial symptoms. Some of the initial symptoms include blurring of vision and clouding of vision. Both of these symptoms can occur in one or both eyes. However, it's important to note that if blurring or clouding of vision occurs in one eye initially, the other eye will be affected eventually within several weeks or months. Over time, some symptoms include overall vision worsening. However, more specifically, this pertains to people's central vision, and some characteristics of vision loss include extreme loss in color vision and visual acuity. And unfortunately, in most cases, for people diagnosed with LHON or affected by LHON, these symptoms are permanent. Some more symptoms include movement disorders, tremors, cardiac conduction effects, and multiple sclerosis symptoms. Some multiple sclerosis symptoms include muscle weakness, poor coordination, numbness, etc. However, these are just few of the many symptoms that patients with multiple sclerosis face. And as notated, these are some of the more less common symptoms. The ones I mentioned earlier are more pertinent and better describe what patients with LHON face.
So now I'm going to describe the epidemiology of LHON. This disease is strictly transmitted through mutations in the maternal DNA, and this is because the maternal DNA contains mitochondrial DNA, and it is mutations in the mitochondrial DNA that ultimately cause LHON. And the mitochondrial DNA is passed on through the ova. There are three potential mutations that can cause LHON. However, these mutations have incomplete penetrance. The susceptible individuals are those obviously who have a mother who has one of these three mutations. And because the mutation of that particular gene does not affect all the individuals, only 50% of males who have the mutation develop LHON, and only 10% of females do. Consequently, because the male DNA is not what causes the mutation in the offspring, a male with LHON will not cause LHON in his offspring. And in terms of the amount of individuals who actually develop the disease, 1 in every 50,000 people get LHON.
So mutations occur in mitochondrial DNA, not chromosomal DNA found in the nucleus like Walter previously mentioned. So mutations in the MTND1, MTND4, MTND4L, or MTND6 genes can cause and contribute to the development of LHON. So the MTND1 gene provides instructions for making a protein called NADH dehydrogenase 1. and the MTND4 gene encodes for NADH dehydrogenase 4, and MTND6 encodes for NADH dehydrogenase 6, which are all a part of complex 1. So complex 1, as we may be familiar with, is one of the several enzyme complexes necessary for oxidative phosphorylation to drive the production of ATP in the mitochondria. And as we know, complex 1 is responsible for the transfer of electrons from NADH, which is an electron carrier, to another molecule called ubiquinone. So electrons are then passed from ubiquinone through several other complexes, complex 1, 2, and 3, as well as 4, to provide energy for the generation of ATP. So again, the genes associated with LHON each provide instructions for making proteins that help the mitochondria convert oxygen and simple sugars to ATP, which is a form of energy that the cells can use. So mutations in any one of these genes can disrupt the process of oxidative phosphorylation, and that leads to a deficit in ATP synthesis and can cause mitochondrial dysfunction, as the figure below shows. This will eventually result in apoptosis of the retinal and ganglion cells, and progressively, this will cause optic nerve degeneration and visual failure. These all contribute to the worsening signs and symptoms of LHON, as Shiv initially mentioned. We still, however, do not know how these genetic changes specifically cause the death of cells in the optic nerve, and how that can lead to the specific features such as movement disorders of LHON. There are also some environmental factors that are associated with increased severity of LHON, and some of these environmental factors include cigarette smoking and alcohol consumption. They contribute to the complex 1 deficiency. Research is super important with this. Researchers are further investigating whether changes in additional genes can contribute to the development of signs and symptoms of this disease.
Oh, no, thank you. Yeah, so as Kyrillos was talking about LHON, there currently is no proven treatment for LHON. A few clinical studies have been in the works. A high dose of oral idimininone and with quinone analogs such as ubiquinone and with vitamin C and vitamin B12 have been a promising cure. These are still in the trial stages. You can see in the figure on the right. Sorry, the visual acuity does go up as months progress, and this is months since the drug has been applied to the person. Another potential solution is antioxidant alpha tocotrienol quinone EPI 743, and this solution has been investigated by the FDA and is still being investigated as another potential solution. Additionally, genetic consulting is very important in this scenario. Both of these treatments do affect your genome, and potential like side effects or mutations can occur, and those will affect your genome and could cause more serious problems as well. So genetic counseling is very important, so you know the benefits and risks before taking either of these medications in the future. Furthermore, partial vision recovery has been reported with the mutations 3,460 and 14,484, but has not been reported with mutation 11,778. These vision recoveries happen on their own without any like drugs or solutions. They're healthy recovery from patients. Furthermore, vitamin C, E, and B12 supplements have also shown to help the situation, but they are by no means a cure to the LHON problem.
Given that LHON currently does not have a cure, there's an abundance of research going on into multiple factors and in multiple areas of the research world. I'm going to start with talking about the druggable innovations that LHON research is currently focusing on. As mentioned before, there are two kind of big drugs that are being investigated. One of them is QS10. QS10 is currently idebenone is the drug that has been approved to treat LHON. However, QS10 is potentially even more effective for restoring complex 1 function and QOC deficits. This QS10 is an idebenone metabolite. Furthermore, EPI 743, as also mentioned, has shown promising results in clinical trials. And this is another quinone derivative. Interestingly enough, the fludimethylamine blue actually has free radical scavenging and electron carrier properties, which some research groups have been looking into in terms of LHON, kind of like future LHON research, as its optic neuropathies have yet to be investigated. Two mitochondrial antioxidants, KH176 and RTA408, are being tested currently in patients with other mitochondrial diseases. And also it's currently going to be tested very soon in patients with LHON. So hopefully all these clinical trials end up being having good results, like low p-values and all that. Ideally to be able to roll these out to the population with LHON soon. Given that LHON is also a genetic disease, gene therapy has been really crucial as a research kind of target for LHON. Genzyme Biologics reports that phase 1 and 2A clinical trials of linadogene nolperovec gene therapy demonstrated safety in LHON patients, which is super good. Gene replacement for NV4 mutant patients has been involves nuclear targeted viral vector carrying a wild type NV4 with an added mitochondrial targeting sequence. Multiple clinical trials are currently going on exploring the safety and the efficacy of this treatment. Also, with the growing population of the CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing system, a mitochondrially targeted version, MitoCas9, was developed. And although there's other systems for editing mitochondrial DNA, the MitoCas9 system is an up-and-coming forerunner and could very well be the future of LHON treatment. There's a few other therapies too looking into LHON research. For example, because LHON is not just a genetic disease, but it's genetic and also it has it's multifactorial, which means that it also has other factors, including lifestyle factors that play into it. So a multi-drug approach has been effective given other multifactorial diseases, including types of cancers, which is it's always something that we're looking into and that researchers are looking into in terms of providing a kind of multi-targeted drug system for LHON. Furthermore, stem cell therapies could be the key for treating LHON too. There was one study in rotenone-treated mice that found that the application of retinal progenitor cells to the ganglion cell layer had a protective effect on the retina. But this improvement was actually found to be due to not the generation of new RGCs, but something else. So hopefully they'll kind of fix that up and put out some new studies soon in that field. Red light therapy has also been something that's been looked at in terms of LHON. Red or near infrared light therapy has demonstrated really significant neuroprotective effects in models of retinal damage by increasing mitochondrial membrane potential, complex 4 activity, as well as ATP production. So this is also being researched further in clinical trials at the moment. So some future directions, not just current, but some future kind of prospective directions for LHON study are really key. As many important questions remain regarding LHON are still unanswered. I mean, for example, the exact causal effect that of how RGC loss in LHON or in LHON is still really poorly defined. So the pathogenesis of this disease they have to be truly elucidated, which hopefully researchers in the future will look into. Furthermore, the processes which differentiate like healthy carriers from diseased individuals has not been characterized either. The potential role of NFR1 and SCNG in astrocyte-mediated mitophagy and axonal maintenance in these RGCs has also been a really crucial future direction that many researchers are proposing looking into in the future. And finally, another potential mechanism, looking at estrogens, ROS, which is reactive oxidative stress, and AMPK signaling pathways in these RGCs are being looked at in the future as hopefully, a feasible, effective as well target for LHON in the future. So there's a lot of research going on currently with many different organizations. As you see in the bottom, LHON Canada, the LHON Eye Society, MitoCam. So many researchers are focusing on this disease, hoping to provide some sort of alleviation to either symptoms or full-scale cures for this disease in the future. So looking forward to it. Hopefully these researchers can come out clutch for us and really provide a sufficient cure for this disease in the near future or even mid to long term. Here are our sources. Thank you so much for watching our presentation today. And yeah, take care. All the best.